We'll start off in Gilead in episode 5, where Aunt Lydia is at a rehabilitation center for ants. She's on the mend, she wants to come back. The only problem is the powers that be have no interest in that whatsoever. A woman named Aunt Ruth shows up to let her know that she won't be returning to the Handmaids, and that really upsets Lydia. She's determined to get back to the girls, and she hops on the treadmill and starts training like Rocky. And then there's Commander Lawrence. He makes his plea in front of the council to stand down, have a ceasefire, saying that it'll be better for trade in the long run. Everyone's scared of Gilead's army, but they're not going to win a war with just guns. They need to open up the trade routes. Standing down in a military ceasefire could help do that. It even seems like he has some support from Nick. But when June gets brought up in the conversation because it was, quote, Commander Lawrence's handmaid that escaped with the children, Commander Lawrence kind of insults June. So when the vote on the ceasefire goes down, not only does Commander Lawrence lose, but Nick also votes not to approve it. Afterwards, Nick tells Lawrence, I can't vote for a ceasefire on a battle that I'm supposed to lead. Lawrence reminds him that a ceasefire could help June, but Nick says, if she was near the border, I would know about it. And Lawrence tells him that it's a big country. The eyes can't see everything. And this really sticks with Nick. He arranges for 2 Marthas to be kind of kidnapped and brought to him, where he questions them about where June might be. The one has absolutely no interest in telling him anything about June Osborne. She is pissed off, saying that everyone that June is around dies. The other one, however, does end up giving him information, saying that 2 handmaids were spotted near Chicago. Maybe June is one of them. And that kind of proves what Commander Lawrence said right. Either way, though, Commander Lawrence's suggestion was shot down. But as he's sitting in his house, he gets a visit from Aunt Lydia. Aunt Lydia wants back in, and she feels like Commander Lawrence can help arrange it. But she hasn't come asking for a favor, instead blackmailing him, saying that she has all this information on him, and if it got out, it would look pretty bad. But Commander Lawrence flips this, saying, well, if you have this information on me, imagine what you have on the other people on the council. The place where I need to be to enact change. So the 2 strike a deal. Lydia giving Commander Lawrence all the dirt on everybody on the council, and Lawrence, in turn, would reinstate Aunt Lydia and also promise that once June was found, June would be put into Aunt Lydia's care for punishment. So Aunt Lydia returns to training the new handmaids, and Lawrence returns to the council. And right before the next meeting, Nick stops Commander Lawrence outside and tells him, yeah, I think you're right. June is in Chicago. So whatever you need, I'll back you. But at this point, Commander Lawrence doesn't need Nick's help because he's blackmailed everybody on the council. So when Nick brings up the fact that maybe they should revisit Commander Lawrence's suggestion, everybody's already on board because they don't want whatever dirt Commander Lawrence has on them to get out. So the council agrees to have a 24-hour ceasefire, letting aides get in there to help with these, quote, terrorists. There is a catch, though. They want to bomb Chicago right before the ceasefire, and they want Nick to lead that. This completely catches Nick off guard. He doesn't want to bomb Chicago because he doesn't know where June is. The thought of him leading a bombing that could kill her doesn't really seem appealing to him. And he's pretty surprised that Commander Lawrence goes along with this, but Commander Lawrence says it's the price of doing business. Nick tries his best to get out of it, saying that there's no time to even pull his own troops out. But the council tells him, well, then you better hurry. So Nick now needs to scramble to lead a bombing before the ceasefire happens. And then finally there's June. Not only have her and Janine stayed, but Janine is now sleeping with Steven. The next day, June is washing her handmade cloak, and she walks up to Teresa and asks how long the food that they got from the train's going to last. But Teresa says, not long because we're trading it. June wants to go with, but Teresa says that's Steven's call. So June walks up to Steven, who is teaching Janine how to shoot a gun, and proposes that she come along with the trade. But Steven says, no, newbies don't come along. And it's actually Janine who convinces Steven to not only let June go, but also bring Janine along, telling him that it was June who got a plane full of kids out of Gilead, and if it wasn't for June, Janine wouldn't be there in the first place. So they head off to trade, which is going to be at the Museum of Natural Science. But as they're walking, they come across 2 soldiers' bodies that are charred up. And June asks Steven, who did this? And he says, it's the Nighthawks. They don't care if they live or die. They just want to kill soldiers. You would love them. June asks him, do you ever trade with them? But he says, no, they move around a lot. Last I heard, they were at a hospital, but who knows where they are. He then tells the group that the place is going to be swarming with troops soon, so they need to get going. And sure enough, they turn a corner, and Teresa lets them know that troops are on the way, and they have to hide in a shop. And they're hunkered down as a patrol rolls through looking in the window, and there aren't many of them, so June wants to attack. But Steven gives her the order to stand down. And once the patrol moves on, June tries to rip into Steven for not attacking, but he says, "What then? I mean, what's going to happen when they don't report back?" She mockingly asks, "What kind of resistance are you?" And he says, "We're the kind that survive." The group then arrives safely at the Museum of Natural Science, where it's set up like a mini marketplace. And as June is getting her cloaks ready, Janine has come across an item that she wants to buy. It's a Cubs hat, but she wants to buy it for Steven because he's a huge baseball fan. She offers the guy one cloak, but he says, "No, not interested." And even though June is very concerned for Janine that she's getting head over heels for a guy that she just met, June decides to offer up her cloak as well. 2 cloaks for the hat. It's a deal too good to pass up. The guy hands over the Cubs hat. Janine's thrilled. That night when they get back to camp, June tells Janine, "I think tomorrow night we should leave and try to find the Nighthawks. It's the whole reason we came here, was to fight." But Janine tells her, "No, you came here to fight. I wanted to go to Boston. But now there's something here. I can get pregnant again and keep my child. We can be moms together. We can have a normal life. I mean, America does need babies, right?" And that's when June tells her, "You sound like Aunt Lydia right now." But Janine sticks up for herself, saying, "No, you do. You're judgmental and you're bossy. I know what's right for me." They then get into an argument about Steven and if he's taking advantage of Janine or not. And it ends with June saying, "Well, I'm leaving tomorrow, so it's either come with me or stay here and be of Steven. It's your choice." And she's true to her word. The next day, a guy named Brad, who is definitely interested in June, gives her directions on where she might want to go. And that's when Janine comes out and tells her, "I'm not coming with." Both June and her have an emotional goodbye, but right before June actually leaves, Janine runs up to her and gives her the Cubs hat, saying, "Here, so you don't forget me." And June, who is fighting back tears, kind of chuckles and says, "How could I ever forget you?" She then puts the Cubs hat on and starts walking through Chicago, and it is deserted. And as she's in the middle of the street, she hears something from behind her, so she hides under a car, and it doesn't take long for 2 legs to show up. But it isn't a soldier, it isn't the Nighthawks, it's Janine, who followed her. June asks her, "What are you doing here?" And Janine says, "I feel safer when we walk together. I mean, handmaids always walking too." So the 2 head off, following Brad's map, when they come across a checkpoint that is completely deserted. There aren't soldiers anywhere around. Not only are they not soldiers, but they left their food rations, which is a giant red flag to June. Janine is thrilled, saying, "Well, at least we got something out of this," but June says, "No, something's wrong." And then that's when they hear planes that are quickly approaching them, dropping bombs, and they start running, but they get caught up in it. And when June wakes up, she is surrounded by rubble, and she has no idea where Janine is. She's disoriented and starts screaming for Janine, but nobody's answering. Aides start running in to try to help those that are injured, and that's when one of the aides approaches June and knows her, because the aide is Moira, and she cannot believe that she is looking at June Osborne. Thanks for checking out this recap. Please consider subscribing to this channel. Like the video if you liked it. Hit thumbs down if you don't. Be nice in the comments section. Nasty comments hurt my feelings. I work hard on these. If I make a mistake, it happens. If you don't see the next video up in the end screen, it'll be up soon. Sharing is caring. Put it on your MySpace page or your away message. And check out my podcast, Scene Invaders, wherever you listen to podcasts.